Hello class, this is a video tutorial on calculating basic probability and compound events. Although this process may seem to complicate more what we may already know about probability, this procedure will simplify complex concepts later on. So to calculate probability of any event E, we take the number of favorable outcomes and we divide it by the total number of outcomes. Simplifying this in mathematical notation, it's the probability of E, so P of E, is equal to the number of favorable outcomes divided by the number in the total outcomes. So from the roll of a regular die, calculate the probability that the result is an even number, multiple of 3, greater than 2, and an odd number. So now you don't always have to do what I'm about to show you, but it simplifies what you may have to figure out later on. So I always, at least in my mind, I write down all the outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's the total outcomes, n of s equals 6. So we've calculated this component. I'm going to do the exact same thing for all of these. So let's call this event A. A are the even numbers. So A, let's write them down. The even numbers in a dice roll are 2, 4, and 6. Let's call this event B, multiples of 3. The multiples of 3 from a dice roll are 3 and 6. Numbers greater than 2, let's call this event C. Greater than 2, not including 2, are 3, 4, 5, and 6. And lastly, let's say odd numbers are event D. And the outcomes for this are 1, 3, and 5. Now, more importantly, what we need to find out for this, what I've shown you in black, you don't always have to do. You can just do this in your mind, but you'll see later on, this process will make it a lot easier for slightly harder questions. So for an even number, so the probability of A, or you can write this down as probability of even, is equal to the number in the event, which is 3, divided by the total number of outcomes, which is 6. You don't always have to, but I advise you to. You can simplify it to a half. The probability of multiples of 3, so let's put this as multiple of 3. Well, there are 2 outcomes in that event divided by the number of total outcomes, which is 6. So 2 out of 6, which can simplify to 1 out of 3. Greater than 2, so probability greater than 2. There are 4 outcomes here out of the total of 6. That is 2 out of 3. And lastly, the probability of odd. We can clearly see that there are 3 odd numbers in that event out of the total of 6, which simplifies to, a half. Okay, so this is what you may already know about probability, and except we're adding an extra layer of calculation to it. Now, once again, you don't have to do what you see here. You don't have to do that. But you'll see now, it'll make it a lot easier for what's known as compound events. Compound events are those that combine 2 or more events using and or conditions. So for example, the probability of A or B, as well as probability of A and B. The AND condition lists or counts only common outcomes from event A and B. You'll see what we mean in a moment. The OR condition lists or counts all outcomes from events A and B without double listing or double counting. Let's do an example of this. So from the previous example, let's calculate the probability of an even number or a multiple of 3. Well, let's do this first. So when it says or, we're going to make a new list as A or B. We're going to list all the numbers without counting any number twice. So take a look, 2, 3, 4, and 6. But since we've already counted 6 in this group, we don't count it again here. So we wouldn't write this as 2, 3, 4, 6, 6, because the 6 from this group and the 6 from this group, but we don't count the 6 twice. So there is the result. So the probability that it is even or a multiple of 3, we can count the group 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 out of 6. An even number and a multiple of 3, well, A and B. Let's make the group for this. The group for this, we will only look at the numbers that are common in both. So if you take a look, I'm going to highlight it. 6 is found in both. So 6 is the only thing that we count because it is common to both event A and event B. So 6. Which means now, just simplifying the notation, probability of A and B, well, there's only one object in the group A and B, so we say it's 1 out of 6. You can go ahead, pause the video, give this a go yourself. Let's do this first. Greater than 2 or an odd number, and then greater than 2 and an odd number. Let's do it like so. A or D. Remember the or condition, we count every single number in both groups without double counting. So going from lowest to highest, 1. Next number is 3. But we've already counted the 3 once, so we don't count again. 4, 5. And again, there's another 5, but we don't count that twice. And 6. So, whoops. There's our group. That's our, event A or, C or D. So the probability of C or D are these numbers here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 6. Greater than 2 and an odd number. So that's A and D. Now looking for numbers that are only common to both. Let's highlight them here. There's a 3 in both, and there's a 5 in both. So since 3 and 5 are the only two numbers that are common to both events, 3 and 5 belong to C and D. So the probability of it being greater than 2 and an odd number, there's two items or two outcomes in this group here, 2 out of the total of 6. So I hope that gave you an insight into calculating basic probability. especially using this process here. Hopefully it'll make your job a little bit easier later on. And as well as calculating compound events using and or conditions. Hope to see you in the next video. Best of luck.